Hi, welcome to Scholarship Talk. This is by IEEE Computer Society, and we have Lily Shu here. So she got the honorary mention for the Adobe Scholar 2017, right?
Yes, great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to attend our session on such short notice. We are so happy to have you here. So one of the main things I wanted to ask you was, what made you apply for the Adobe Scholarship? What were the biggest perks according to you?
So the Adobe Scholarship is actually something I heard about through one of my professors in college, and at that time I had was just starting my third year of college, and I had taken a computer graphics class with her, and class was something that I was really excited about. It was one of my first applied classes in computer science. And so then we were actually like building code and then doing this 3D rendering and then creating these graphics that had like light rays going through and casting all these shadows and colors. And I just thought like, oh, this is a really fun project. I did a final project where there were like these geometric shapes that were colliding to each other. So it was a combination of math, but also beautiful imagery. And I've done some art growing up, so it was really fun to be able to combine my visual interests with my technical interests. So then when my professor mentioned this Adobe scholarship sort of at the end of class, and she encouraged me to apply, I just thought that there was nothing to really miss out on. And I never really applied for a scholarship like that before, so didn't really know much going into the process, but figured I would just give it my best shot no matter what.
All right. Okay. And how much did you prepare for the application, and what points did you focus on while preparing for it?
So the preparing for the application was more of a process of doing. So it's not as much the same as preparing for an interview, like a job interview, for example, because for that application you have to submit, and things might have changed. So pardon me if I'm getting anything a little bit wrong. You have to submit a personal statement about what your background is and what you're excited about pursuing in the future in computer science. And then you have to submit 3 references. And then I believe there was an optional video when I had applied as well. So in order to just go about the application process, it was more of a process of doing rather than preparing. So I guess the first step is to try to think about what it is that I wanted to say. So what do I envision myself doing in the future as a computer scientist? And this was actually sort of a process of self-discovery for me, because at that time I wasn't sure exactly what it is I wanted to do. Did I want to go into software engineering? Did I want to go into research? What kind of field do I want to study? So I really did not have a good sense of that when I didn't have a good sense of my vision when I was writing my application. And that process made me take time and actually figure out sort of like, what are my personal ambitions? What is it that I want to do? Why am I studying this field? But then another very important part of the application, other than figuring out that personal statement, are the letter of references. So those recommendation letters there were 3 of them when I applied. Hopefully they're still the same. And at that time, I had never really gotten recommendation letters other than while I was applying to college as a high school student. So this is very different from me, and just trying to figure out, okay, well, who should I select to be my letter writers? And during that time, basically the only people who were computer scientists that I interacted with were my professors. So I just sort of thought like, okay, these are the professors whose class I enjoy the most, who I think know me the best, who I have worked for as a teaching assistant, who I like really proactively went to office hours and talked with a lot outside of class and just sort of built up this relationship with. So that also made me reflect on, okay, what is my interaction with my professors? How well do they know me? And perhaps like what are different strengths or different weaknesses that each of them would be able to write about me? And then one thing that I did in order to prepare for my letters of recommendation is, after each person said yes and agreed to write me a letter, and thankfully all the people I asked were kind enough to accept. And then I first sent them a draft of my personal statement, but then I also shared with them just sort of a bulleted brag list about myself, sort of saying these are talking points I recommend that you could potentially add. So some of that just started with basics. So oftentimes professors have to write a lot of recommendation letters. So I was just trying to say, well, okay, these are the classes I've taken with you. These are sort of like the cool projects that I did. These were like some places where I went above and beyond, or here's when I was a teaching assistant for you and I stepped in when this other TA wasn't able to attend their recitation section. So I opted to substitute for this person, for example, just trying to reflect back on, okay, what are sort of times where I might have stood out and how can I mention, let me just make sure I reflect on all of that so that I can put this as a suggestion for this professor. So all of that was a very good sort of like reflection, recollection period for me to really evaluate what is it I've done so far. What were the things that I thought were very positive about what I did and positive about my interactions? And then that becomes sort of an impetus for what I want to do in the future, because recommendation letters are always going to be coming up, whether it's for other scholarships in the future or for grad school, master's or PhD program. So always good things to keep in mind, this whole process of what is my personal vision for a personal statement, and then who are the people who can be my advocates, who know me well and can vouch for what is it that I do.
Okay. And when preparing for the CV, you had to give a CV, right? List out all the projects you have done, all of that. So when you prepared for the CV and the answers, what do you suggest that we must look at, or what are your suggestions for the applicants? I am an applicant. I'm applying this year. So what would be your suggestion?
Oh, wonderful. Best of luck to you. So regarding the CV, at that time, I'm actually not sure what the norm is in India. Do you typically have resumes when you're applying for
Yeah,
jobs?
we have resumes. Yeah, we have
Okay.
resumes.
So resumes are like one page, and then CVs are sort of longer, and they have everything that you've done. Do you have that difference?
Yeah, we are supposed to submit a resume, the one-page document. That's
Okay.
what I.
Oh, okay. So in at least in the US, we have sort of a distinction between a resume, which is a short one-page document for job interviews, and the CV is much longer. And then for that, it's just more of like a running list of things and has fewer descriptions. But at that, so I guess at that time, my resume was not very long. My CV was not very long because I had not had very much job experience. I didn't do an internship by that point or anything. So I just sort of said, well, okay, here are some like big projects that I've worked on. Here are like the things that I've been a leader for in college. So I was on my school dance team, and I was a leader in our outing club. So those things combined with what I talked about, saying that, okay, even though I'm still just like halfway through my college career, these have been times when I've been able to pick up the mantle and demonstrate leadership. So reflecting on that, I believe I also had like a list of these were like the relevant courses that I took. But if you're submitting a transcript as well, that might not be as necessary as it's just what I sort of have on the job interview resumes. So then with the experiences and projects and stuff, the key there is to not just talk about what I did. So if all the experiences that I had there, it was not just saying, okay, this is my responsibility. You know, I like worked on this project. I worked with this person. I built this thing. That's important to just sort of put in a short line to get the point, so people have a sense of, okay, what is the context of what's going on here, but then try to emphasize, did I complete things faster than expected? Did I make things very efficient? Did I go above and beyond with anything? Did I notice anything that was challenging for people and that I was able to remedy at this time? So really trying to focus on not just like what it is you're doing, but what you did, if you know the distinction. So really trying to highlight, okay, what happened because you were in that position and not any other computer scientist. So at all stages of this, whether it's your resume or recommendation letters or personal statement, really trying to emphasize, okay, this is what makes me unique, and these are sort of the stellar qualities that I have, in the most humble way.
So some of the questions were things like names, explain some of the experiences you've been through. So questions like that, do you suggest we write it from a personal point of view, or do you have to include something like some difficulties you faced while doing a project or something like that? Like, are you allowed to write from your personal point of view, some incident that happened to your personal life? Do you think that's possible?
I would say yes, absolutely. And of course, I'm not on the committee that reads through these applications, so I can't promise that I know exactly what they like and don't like. But from my experience with scholarships and with these kinds of applications, they really want to who you are as in your personal life reflects who you are in your research life and in your computer science life and in your industry life.
So
So
there are,
all of those,
yeah, sorry.
yes, absolutely. Anything that in which you're able to really demonstrate grit, in which you overcame something that many people don't even have to face, for example, are all instances of that kind of grit and that kind of perseverance. So, but I would avoid simply talking about my personal challenge and have that be the bulk of the story, but then include a paragraph or a few short sentences at the end to sort of sorry. Just include a few short things, really tying it back to why this is also relevant to my career as a computer scientist.
Okay.
So saying that, okay, well, the kind of challenge that I overcame here, I showed a certain character trait, and that will be useful as well in my life as a computer scientist.
So basically provide them an all-round assessment of yourself, your personality, your skills, all of them together. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, the question which we all want to know the answer to was something we never really got any clarity on, was what happens after application? Like, do they call you for an interview? Do you have an exam? Like, what happens after?
Yes. So there's definitely no exam, and I hope that's reassuring. But what they do have is an interview. So basically, afterwards, I received an email saying that like they enjoyed my application and they would like to connect me with one of their Adobe researchers to go through this interview process. So during that period, I think I submitted a little bit of information about myself, in addition to what I had already prepared on that scholarship application. And then they put me in touch with about 3 or so researchers, and I had just video conversations with each of them, learning about their work, learning about the projects that they would be working on, because the hope that, as I mentioned with the Adobe Scholarship Program, they'll connect you with one of their researchers who will serve as a mentor. And then there's some opportunities to conduct an internship with them as well in one of their offices. So that process was potentially trying to do that matching. And I actually did have somebody who I really enjoyed speaking with and whose project I thought was very interesting. But unfortunately, I had already had a summer internship lined up, because by the time this was happening, it was running January or February. And back in the fall, I had planned internships for the summer. So I actually tried to think, okay, well, is there any way that I could maybe like skip classes in the fall and then just work at this internship? But then I decided that probably wasn't a good idea. So.
Okay. And how hard was the interview? What questions did they ask you? Was it based on the answers you gave for your application? Or was it based on your resume, the projects you did? What was it based on?
Right. So it didn't, even though I'm sure that they all had access to my application and like looked at my statement and my resume and stuff, The questions were just a lot more general, so it was more just of saying like, okay, tell me about your experience in computer science or computer graphics. Tell me is there anything that like attracts you to Adobe, for example? But otherwise, it was more just like learning about their project and then trying to ask questions and be engaged. So sometimes they would ask me about like specific technical knowledge because one project might require like very heavy programming in C, for example, and another one might require a specific background in linear algebra, for example. So there were this sort of like overall questions about like, okay, what is your background? But it's something that they sort of just accepted my answer. They didn't say, well, okay, so you've taken linear algebra class. Can you compute this eigenvector for me right now? So that's not like that. They're not trying to put you on the spot like that. It really just felt more like a normal like first stage interview for a job or something like that.
So they don't ask you too many technical questions. Everybody was worried if they'll give you problems to solve or ask you to code something, do things like that.
No, anything they would expect from you, they would tell you in advance. They wouldn't just surprise that on you.
Okay, so do you have any other tips or do you have any suggestions to give me or the other people who are probably going to be watching this? I mean, tomorrow is the last day. We have to submit the applications at 5 p.m. tomorrow. So any
Okay.
last minute suggestions or tips?
So my suggestion would be to be bold, like be bold about your vision and what you can achieve in the future, because you can achieve that. And then also make sure that your statement is personal as well. So really look through and think, does Nimisha shine through? Does my vision shine through? Like, what if I read through my personal statement and I read through my resume, like what things about this would no other person be able to say, or very few other people will be able to say? You know, what are the things that make me uniquely qualified and uniquely capable of being a stellar computer scientist in the future? Because I do have that capability, so I just need to find a way to convince the committee that I do as well.
And what is Adobe looking for? What kind of scholars are Adobe really looking for? Is it the kind that are totally into coding, computer science, and all that? Or is other domains like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on? Do you think those domains are also acceptable? Because my passion is in AI, not really into programming. Yes, as long as it's in the domain of AI, I like programming, but nothing related to computer science per se. So do you think that will be a problem?
I think absolutely, especially because that's AI and machine learning are such topical fields right now, and also because having strength in those will let you become a better programmer, for example, let you become a better overall computer scientist, because these are all very related skills. So another I thought of something and I just forgot it. Okay, if it comes back, I'll say it. So what I was going to say. Sorry, sorry to interrupt. What I had meant to say earlier is one thing that makes Adobe unique among other technology companies is that they are a very creative technology company. So all of their products, like the Creative Cloud as the most famous one, are very artistic. And a lot of their researchers are people who specialize in computer graphics and fabrication, for example. So think about that as you're looking over your application and polishing things. Do you have art background that you could talk about? Have you made digital images? Do you maintain your own website? Just all of these things that show a more creative side as well, and an artistic or a visual component to you would be important to highlight as well. So.
Okay, so you are a PhD scholar at Harvard now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, that's really nice. And how are you doing? I hope you're doing fine.
Thank you for asking. Things are going well, and since March, basically, I just have not been on campus or in the office at all. So as a computer scientist, the work that I do, for better or worse, can all be done remotely. So I just have my little computer, don't have to leave. Um, Although sometimes it would be nice if I could say, "Oh, sorry, I can't do this. I don't have access to the lab. Can't do my research today." Yeah, but overall things are good. My research overall focuses on applications of artificial intelligence, specifically looking at game theory, um, machine learning for applications for wildlife conservation. So our my biggest application area is trying to figure out how we can prevent poaching in national parks around the world. So poachers should go out, place snares in these parks, trying to figure out like if we have ranger teams that go out, where do we think that poachers are most likely to place snares so that rangers can go there and remove the snares and help protect wildlife. So that's what I ended up
That's a
doing right now, and that's not something that I could have even envisioned as a potential project back when I was applying for the scholarship. So it was just that's the thing. At this point in your life, in your career, when you're applying for this, there's a huge window of opportunity for what you can do. So your goal in this application is to just pick out like one of those possibilities or one channel of those possibilities and just highlight that and convince the reader how incredible it will be when you achieve that career, because it will be.
And were you surprised when you knew that you were one of the honorable mention winners of 2017?
I definitely wasn't expecting it, so absolutely I was surprised. Yeah.
Thank you so much for attending this session. We are thrilled to have you here. I guess
Wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful. Nimisha, it was great chatting with you, and I wish you and all the applicants the best of luck.
thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.